All right, welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III here with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. I am back in LA. I have got an awesome story for you. It's actually a story that would have been catastrophic, but I think I'm going to turn it into a learning lesson. And so imagine with me for a second that it's like 6:30 in the morning. Your flight leaves in about 90 minutes, and you're about 45 minutes from the airport, and your ride doesn't show up, and you've got key meetings that you've got to be back to. What would you do? If you've ever traveled, then you already know that if you're like me, you probably have anxiety in the first place. You got to, make sure you got everything you need, and traveling takes longer, and the airport and things. Normally, and in the past, this definitely would have freaked me out. But I've told myself recently that I'm going to do my best to find the positive in everything and push through the examples. Normally I would be like, all right, I'm going to miss my flight. What am I going to do? Let's go to the next, step. What do we do? But not today. Today, I was just going to go for it. I was going to go for broke. So let me give you the timeline of what happened here. And then, other than some entertainment value, maybe there's some lessons learned for you. So the first part of this story is the transportation. So I'm digging into my mobile app. I'm looking for Lyft. I'm looking for Uber. But where I live in southern Utah, there's really none running. And, I've had experiences in some big cities recently where I've even requested rides and then they keep canceling on me because there's no real ride there. I don't know if this is a Lyft thing or Uber or whatever. And so I was really worried about that. So couldn't find a ride, couldn't find anywhere to go. So I decided to get a cab. And, expensive, but it was worth it. So I got a cab, finally got a hold of one. It's like 6:30 in the morning. And this guy, Armando from Peru. So Armando from Peru, hopefully you're listening to this episode. Ended up having a great conversation with this guy. Great guy. He drove like crazy. I was totally stressed, but at the end of the day, pushed through that step and realized that, things can work out, and how you address the situation, the filter you have on the situation, as I always talk about, is a key. So, I got the cab, got to the airport, and then it hit me. The lines. I looked at, even though I have status, I'm a million miler with Delta, I looked at the lines, and the Sky Priority line, it was out the door. And I thought to myself, this is insane. Even with status, there's nothing I'm going to do about this. But I told myself, you know what? Just get through the line. The worst case that's going to happen is you're not going to make your flight. And I was able to get through the line. And unfortunately, when I got up there to check in, I found out I was at the B gates. And for those of you that have flown Delta in Salt Lake City, you realize that even with that massive new $2 billion airport, the B gates are like in the middle of nowhere. And so that's okay. I go to the next step. I get over to security, and fortunately for me, and people think, traveling is just like all kinds of fun and excitement, but for me, traveling is just, it's just a nature of business, and so I try to do what I can to ease the traveling. So I'm TSA pre-check, which means I can kind of skip the security lines, and I don't have to take off my shoes and my belt and all those kind of things. I get to the TSA pre-check line, and I kid you not, the longest line I have ever seen. I've never seen a wait in the security pre-check line. And I thought to myself, you got to be kidding me. Like, there's just no way this is going to happen. And so I wait through that line, and now we're really getting down to the wire. I mean, this flight leaves in maybe like half hour, 40 minutes at this point. It's probably like 45 minutes. But I just kept telling myself, let's just get through this line and see where we go. And I finally get through that, and I'm like, I'm not taking any chances. I take my belt off, my shoes, everything, even though I didn't need to, everything except my shoes. And beep, 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 the security metal detector goes off. And I'm like, there's just no way this is happening. And it goes off again. So I pull all my shoes off, and I get through, and I found out that it's my shoes, which is kind of crazy. So I get through. I just couldn't believe it. My belt, my wallet, my shoes. I'm at this point, I'm saying to myself, maybe I'm not supposed to take this flight. Maybe there's a reason that I'm not supposed to go. But I tell myself, I'm going through the finish line on this whole positive thought process. This is going to work out. So I find out I'm at the B gates, which is, imagine walking like a half mile to get to the end of the A gates, and then you have to take an underground passageway another half mile to get to the B gates, and there's no moving sidewalks. I'm in my suit with my briefcase. I'm sweating bullets. At this point, like I said, I'm wondering whether or not I'm even going to make it, but I'm like, nah, let's just do it. Let's just make this happen. And I get there and I find out you got to take a shuttle to still get to the plane. So bottom line is this: I actually made it with like 3 minutes to spare before they closed the gate and closed the plane. But the bottom line is, if I had thought about for a second the whole process I would have had to go through to get there, I would have given up before I had started. I would have made some kind of excuse of, it's okay, I could take the next one, I'll go tomorrow, I'll do whatever. And obviously, I feel like, if I could give you some entertainment value from that, that's great. But really, the bottom line is this: I feel like there's always lessons to be learned, and this is no exception. So I wrote down a few things because I started analyzing, what happened and how I dealt with this situation. Because remember, I've said this before, if you have trouble dealing with your filter on life or your filter on situations, you've got to learn to train your mind to not work against you but work for you. Because remember, this whole concept of neuroplasticity says the neurons that fire together wire together. So if you always have negative thoughts, or you always skip to the worst case scenario, or you always do that thing, the more often you do that, the more frequent and the more often and the quicker you do that, the faster you'll automatically go that way with your mind. And I'm saying to myself, look, I want to make sure that I am creating pathways with my mind that are quicker to go to the positive. And it's not natural for us to do that, but quicker go to the positive, quicker to find solutions. And so here's what I took from this experience, and maybe it's something that can help you with things you're dealing with right now. The first is, don't miss the opportunity to learn from situations you go through. Even if they're bad, even if they're good, definitely take a second and think about and learn from the situation that you've gone through. The second thing is, it's very, very important, and I've had this happen multiple times in my life, that if you're going through something serious, something difficult, something hard, it's very important not to think about the end game, not to think about whether you're going to come out on top or not. The key is just to focus on the very next step, the very next obstacle. I can't remember if it was, and this topic's come up several times in different movies, whether it's Matt Damon, who played in The Martian, or Tom Hanks with Apollo 13. But the bottom line is they made the comment, they said, in space, you have to just deal with one issue at a time. You don't think past the one issue. And I feel like that's a great teaching moment, especially today, where I said to myself, okay, I'm just going to get transportation. Once I got that, of course I got hit with another problem, but I'm just going to get through that problem. And once I get through that problem, another one may come up, but I'll get through that one. I think it's so important when you're dealing with any kind of adversity or dilemmas or circumstances, that you stop and break it down to just the most smallest item you can deal with right now, because it allows you to get a win, it allows you to get the next step in front of you, and it allows you to not focus on the bigger problem. And that's really, really, really important. And when you stop thinking about the end game and you just focus on the very next step, I think that that's something a lot of us fail to do when we're dealing with heavy situations. I mean, there's a lot of people dealing with, depression, with, divorce, with business issues. Just focus on today. Just focus on the hour. Just focus on your next step and get through that. And I think it's going to get you further than you would have if you got overwhelmed. Another thing I thought about is find the positive. Find the gratitude. The positive is I met a really great individual on the cab. The positive is I found some interesting people along the way. The positive is that I did get there. I mean, I don't want to just be, okay, I avoided a problem. I need to recognize and be grateful for the fact that everything did come together. And so many of us forget to do that. And you need to ingrain that positivity and gratitude as well. And then the other thing is recognize the win. Sometimes we don't recognize wins that we have because we're not at the end game we're looking for. We don't recognize all the little wins along the way. Well, you can't get, that satisfaction and fulfillment in life, on the path, throughout the process, if you don't recognize the wins along the way. And that allows you to help grow as well. So anyway, I hope this was at least somewhat entertaining for you. It was definitely a stressful morning for me, but at a minimum, it gave me the ability to kind of learn, and it gave me some lessons that I think we can apply to a lot of areas in our life that maybe aren't so, stressed out, but maybe just average areas that you can deal with every day. Focus on the small steps. Don't miss the opportunity to learn. Make sure that you focus on the positive and the gratitude, and I think it'll serve you well in your life. So I'm looking forward to talking with you more this week. That's my message for today. I hope you've had a great weekend. It's time to get things going this week. I look forward to talking with you more throughout the week, and feel free to hit me up at The Daily Mastermind on Facebook or Instagram. And do me a favor and share this message. Share it with somebody that you know, and hopefully you'll be able to help them be able to get through some of the tough times that they've got as well. I'll talk with you soon.